Hello and welcome to Find Your Freedom, a podcast dedicated to helping you truly find freedom in all aspects of life. Join your hosts and their expert guests as they share practical tips and strategies for finding more freedom in your life. It's time to take control of your life and create the future you want. Let's find your freedom. Here are your hosts, Lenny the Boss and Omid Rad Investor.
All right, boom, 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 boom. Welcome back to another amazing episode of Find Your Freedom. And before we get into this next guest, which is fantastic, one of the biggest action takers I personally know, you know that we always here at Find Your Freedom have to make sure we have something for you. So we put together something called a Freedom Kit, all right? It's something that is easily downloadable. All you have to do is go to www.findyourfreedomrei.com/freedom kit. That's right. Findyourfreedomrei.com/freedom kit. Go there, download it. It will absolutely change your life. All right. Now, I really like stories, when people sit there and go from like 0 units to 10 units, in a year and a half, just like the guest we're about to have on. Now, this guy right here is one of the biggest action takers I know. He listens to what's going on. He makes a decision and he just get up and go. I mean, he took his family and put them in the car and said, we're going to go buy some properties and we're not coming back until, we buy them. So, man, I'm telling you, you can't wait to hear this story. So with that being said, I'm going to bring in my guy, Cale Delaney. What's up? How are you doing, brother?
Hey, what's going on, Lenny? Omid? Nice to see you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, I mean, before we get anything, behind the scenes, we were just talking to Cale and, we all just had to put it up. Show them the gun show real quick before we start.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Look at the muscle.
So for all the people that can't watch right now, man, you're going to have to go to YouTube or whatever and go check out the gun show from Cale, all right? But hey, Cale, man, before we jump into your fantastic story, let's, tell the listeners, who you are, man.
Sure, yeah. Well, like I said, Cale Delaney, I live down in South Florida here now, but I originally grew up in New Hampshire, small town guy, and moved down south for college and stuck around. So it's been a little while now. But, I'm kind of, I consider myself a rather unlikely entrepreneur. And what I mean by that is, I never, not until recently ever considered or thought that I'd be an entrepreneur or have my own business or anything like that. I was the kind of person that really just flocked to safety. I mean, having a W-2 that paid well with good benefits was the end game, right? I mean, and it was scary to think of anything else beyond that. And so I did that. I worked for as a construction manager or project manager for about 15 years. So really ever since college, more or less, I worked in that career, and it was just something that I never really had a passion for. It was just a very logical thing for me to do. I went to school for engineering. I didn't want to do the design engineering I had discovered, and the construction management was kind of the next logical step for me. And like I said, I stuck with that for 15 years without having a passion for it, but not really knowing what else I would do, frankly. And it wasn't really until a few years ago that I started kind of thinking a bit differently. And we have 3 kids, but it was with the birth of my youngest, who's a little over 3 years old now, that kind of started the domino effect of getting me to where I am. And so when he was born, I just kind of started thinking of the future, at that point, really seriously, and seeing that I could not continue to live the same life that I was living for the next 30 to 40 years and maybe retire, and so I just started thinking of what can I do? How can I change things? How can I get out of this? And I kind of fell back on real estate. I had a little bit of real estate experience, right after college, before the construction management, I sold some commercial real estate for a couple of years, right into the Great Recession. So excellent timing on my part. But so I kind of just fell back on that as a default of, man, maybe that's probably what I should start looking into. And of course, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, like most people do, and that kind of slaps you in the face as to what you've been doing wrong all your life. And so after reading that, it just kind of it didn't solidify a vision, but it pointed me in the right direction of what I needed to start looking into, being investing and building wealth and building a business.
So can I interrupt you there? So your your son's born, 3 years old. You're thinking about all the different options, and I think a lot of people are in that same position. They're in that exact position where they've worked W-2 for a long time, and why now? Like, why do it now? And like, how do you overcome those fears? Because I think a lot of people have those fears, and they are like, you know what, I would rather have my 401k and have my 6-figure income than take a chance when I'm, and you don't look the age, right? You don't look like you're in your later 30s. You look like you're 25, with your build. But
right.
Like somebody in that position, like, what would you tell them?
Number one, it's never too late. I mean, I'm going to be 39 years old this couple of months here. I mean, why now, or why, then a few years ago when I started thinking about it? I think there was a lot of things, but like I said, it was the birth of my son, and so like I said, we have two older kids as well. But they're my wife's from a previous marriage, so the littlest one, he was my firstborn, son, or having a child as a baby, and so it was a bit of a life-changing experience, and that just, like I said, just kind of got me thinking more in depth of what the future is going to hold, not only for me but for my family now, right? And it is scary. It really is scary. And frankly, I mean, once I had reached the financial goals that I had set for being able to leave my W-2, I still stuck around for a little bit, for a couple of reasons. One was for some medical challenges we were having in the family, but also it's just hard. I mean, it is a scary thing to step away from. Like I said, when you have what on paper is a great career, you make good money, and you have what the quote unquote American dream, right? But there was no satisfaction in it. And I just looked at people who were 10, 20, 30 years my senior in this position, and I was like, oh gosh, I can't see myself. I can't see myself there. Like, something needs to change. Like, I think it was just a point of not so much desperation, but just, again, really starting to think about the future and understanding that if I don't do something now, that is going to be me, because I'm a creature of habit too. And I don't like change. And if I don't force myself into something, I will not. And it's just going to be harder and harder and harder over the years as it goes. So,
that's it right there. And, before I ask you my true question, we're going to go back just a little bit, because you went to the U, right? You went, so I got a question to ask, so I got to go, but I got to ask a couple questions about the U. All right.
Boy.
So you went to the U. I'm a big Miami Hurricanes fan. Like, all right, give me a 1-minute spiel that we can jump right back to it. How was it like at the U with all those big time football players that come through the university, man?
Well, I wish I could give you some exciting stories, but frankly, I'm a bit of a boring individual, especially during my college years there. So, I mean, I'll say it was a great time at college there. I mean, it's a wonderful university. It was a bit of a culture shock coming from small town New Hampshire down to Miami, Florida, and a huge university. I mean, those are some of the biggest challenges for me. But no, I mean, it was great. It was
Did the working out start in Miami, or was it before? Like, because I feel like everybody in Miami is in shape. Like, I go out there and I'm like,
well,
does everybody breathe?
It was before. I started when I was 14, and in college was definitely the peak. I mean, that was when I was hitting it hard. So definitely helps being in South Florida or at a place like that where a lot of people are. It kind of gives you
it always helps, man. When you talk, don't underplay that. If you live in South Florida, sunny Florida, going to the big time U school, it always helps, right? But hey, let's jump right back into your story. And I heard you say a couple of things, right? You said, hey, you was an individual that flocked to safety, if the job paid well and had some good benefits, you were there. And I could sit there and say a large population of the world thinks that way, right? But I want to hear about this story, right? I'm doing some research on you, and I'm hearing this story that you packed your kids up into this car, right? And your family, and said, we're out. We're going to sit here and buy some real estate, and we're not coming back home until then. So if you could, for the listeners, man, tell us how that even came about and what you actually did.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So once I had focused on the real estate, decided that was it. I mean, yeah, I started doing all the research and long story short, my first property that I actually bought was a quadplex and small multifamily. And I thought long-term rentals was what I was going to do, but the cash flow was just not that exciting, right? So I happened to come across a podcast, which, from, of course, you guys know him very well, but Tony on, Bigger Pockets, Real Estate Rookie. And he was talking about his investing in the Smoky Mountains and short-term rentals. And everything he was saying just sounded too good to be true. And it sounded amazing to think I could have a cabin in the mountains that was going to pay me a bunch of money. So, I mean, I heard that podcast and I literally looked up where the Smoky Mountains were on Google Maps because I didn't even know where it was. And yeah, I saw it was, I say driving distance, but that's kind of ridiculous because it was 16 hours away. But so yeah, I saw that. It was a couple days before Thanksgiving week. I had vacation already scheduled out from work. So talked with the family, say, hey, let's go take a trip out to the mountains. So we packed up, minivan full of 7 people, like packed to the brim, and drove the 16 hours out there. Met a realtor out there, looked at properties, came, on the way back, I was like, this is the market. This is it. We're going to do it. And, 3 weeks later, went under contract on the first property, and it's kind of snowballed from there. But, yeah.
So can I stop you? Yeah. So can I stop you there? So you get the first property within 3 weeks. So that's amazing in itself. So you drive down, you bring the whole family, you got the proof of concept, you see it in person, and you're like, wow, so this is it. And this is something I want to do. So how did you, was it everything you expected when you got into the very first deal? And what are some like the learnings that you took away? And then when did you decide, hey, I might want to do this again and buy another one?
Well, I said I was going to buy another one while I was still under contract on the first one. So. I mean,
that's the way to do it.
Right. It worked out by great happenstance that the seller of the first one, his family owned the 2 neighboring cabins, and we found out they were looking to sell. So we ended up negotiating on those right after we closed and bought all 3. So, that worked out well. But yeah, as far as lessons learned, there's a lot. But I think anybody looking to get into the hospitality world or short-term rental business, needs to understand that it is active, right? Now, certainly you can make it passive through the use of, VAs or building a team once you get to a certain level. But in the beginning, more than likely, it's going to be you, and it's going to be an active type thing where you almost are on call, right? So you're going to get messages in the morning, in the night, and everywhere in between, right? And some inconvenient times. So you just got to understand that that's what you're getting into. You are in the guest services or customer service, industry. So you got to kind of roll with the punches and try to kill them with kindness when you might want to punch them in the face type thing.
No.
So,
and that's all of us. But hey, look, you went from 0 units to 10 units in a year and a half, right?
Right.
So I guess that had to be a big time focus. Like, like what is it like? What was it like doing that? Like, from your wife, you just have a brand new kid, right? A infant. I mean, like, was there some mentors you had? Were there some books that you read? Like, was your wife fully supportive? Like, tell us about all that.
Yeah. It was not an easy journey, and I was able to move as quickly as I did because of over the past 15 years of my working career, I'd been, I'm just a very financially or fiscally responsible person, frugal person. So, I mean, I'd set myself up, well from a financial standpoint so that when I was ready and when I discovered, real estate and short-term rentals, I was able to pull the trigger quickly through some, various methods. And it all goes down to how determined you are, right? I mean, where there's a will, there's a way. So, I mean, I was still working, the full-time job. We have 3 kids, one of them being a baby, for a period right when we were getting started. I mean, we had just closed on the first 3 properties, and we're converting one of the long-term rentals that we had into a short-term rental when, my wife had gone to, Ecuador, where she's from, and series of events. Very long story short, she had an operation there, or surgery there, that just turned into an absolute nightmare. She ended up being stuck in Ecuador for 6 months. Here I was in the middle of all this, starting this business, got all these properties going on. Now I've got 3 kids to handle myself as well. I mean, it was a lot going on. But I was determined. I come too far to turn back at that point, frankly, and I wasn't going to stop. So, I mean, even during that period, we bought another property, and just kept on moving. So, yeah, it's just, you gotta have what I say, you gotta have a strong why, because if you don't, when those road bumps or speed bumps come or hardships come, it's going to be very easy to quit. It really can be. So if you don't have that strong why and determination to move forward despite it, you may stop in your tracks.
So, you talk about that there's quite a few, I think everybody has struggles in different ways. And how do you, I guess, time block? Because for you to squeeze in all those things, you're watching your kids, you're doing a W-2, you're growing a business, you're on call. What are some best practices that you could share with somebody who's new or wanting to get into it?
Yeah. Scheduling is very, very important, and being disciplined and having a routine. Around that same time that my youngest was born, not only reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, but The Miracle Morning. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with that. But I had read that, and I flipped my schedule 180 degrees.
So can you explain The Miracle Morning just for the listeners who haven't read the book, and what it is, and how you maybe incorporated it?
Yeah. So The Miracle Morning, the concept is starting your day early and blocking out time specifically for different things. And he has several that he recommends. Frankly, I don't do all of them. I know a lot of people don't do all of them, but you kind of find what works for you. But like what I do is, I start my day off I get up at 4:45 in the morning, and I start my day off with usually about 20 to 30 minutes or so of meditation and prayer. And then I get dressed, go to the gym, do my workout, come back and get my day started. And some of the other things he really recommends is, journaling, which I haven't gotten into yet. A lot of people tell me that it's excellent and I should start doing it, but I have not gotten into doing that yet. But I think it's about getting yourself in the right mindset, having some quiet time for yourself instead of just like I used to do. You get up as late as you possibly can to have enough time to scramble, get ready, mix the protein shake, drink it on the commute to work. And then you're just in chaos from the moment that you wake up, right? So it's about just doing that, kind of relaxing, getting yourself in the right mindset, incorporating physical exercise to start your day off right and get yourself in that focused mindset.
No, that's great. That's great. And I'm a big advocate of that. I'm an individual who I like to get up early and I like to visualize my day. Like literally, I sit back in the chair and I lay my head back in the chair, close my eyes, and I visualize how I would like my day to be. And I do this during a time, where no one is awake, so no one can sit here and bother me. So it means a whole lot, getting up. So So you have, 10 units or so. So what's the mixture here? Like, do you have all of them short-term rentals? Do you have any long-term rentals, mid-term rentals? Like, what do you got going on?
Yeah, so we actually have 13 now, but we got five long terms and 8 short terms. 7 of which are cabins in the Smoky Mountains, and then one short term down here in South Florida.
So as far as that, can you maybe walk us through? There's, a lot of people saying, oh, like I don't want to get into short-term rentals. Why did you stick to the one market? And then 2, is it still a good time to buy?
Right. I mean, I stuck with the one market, primarily the Smokies, because it worked, right? It still works. And especially once you get your systems in place and your reliable boots on the ground, that makes things a lot easier to expand. Because that's one of the hardest parts when you're getting set up, is getting the reliable. I say boots on the ground, but that's your handyman, your cleaners, and other vendors that you might need to use. That's definitely one of the most challenging parts. So moving to another market, you got to go through that whole rigmarole and learn that market and all that. So I stuck with the Smokies just because it works. And as far as is it a right time to buy? I mean, it's all a matter of perspective, right? You just got to stick to your guns, right? And I say now is probably even more important. Well, no, probably not more important. Just as important to be strict about your underwriting and stick to it. When I got started, and when a lot of people got started, 2020, 2021, the market was crazy. It was like, property comes online and within 24 hours, there's like 15 offers, 40% above asking price. And it's like, oof, this is ridiculous, right? So it was very easy to get caught up in that hype and be flexible, quote unquote, with your underwriting to make a deal work, right? That might not. So I've always been very strict and conservative, and it's worked out for me. It maybe takes a little bit more patience in finding the right deal. And I think that's what today's market is. You just need to be patient because the cost of capital has increased significantly. Mm-hmm. Prices are softening and starting to come down, or negotiable at least, but not, at least that I've seen, not quite to the point where it's back to par. So you just got to keep your eyes out, right? And be in the market daily if you're actively in a buying mode, right? And once you find something, be ready to pull the trigger.
Yeah, and I think that make a whole lot of sense, and that was really a really fantastic question. So you scaled, fairly quickly here. Like what was your strategy? Did you get did you do like bird deals or partnerships, or like how was you able to scale, so quick, within a 2-year period?
Sure. Yeah, I did a little bit of everything, kind of. My very first deal and one additional I had partnered with my father on, and I kind of recommend that too. With anybody, if you do have somebody that that maybe has a little, obviously if they have a little bit more experience, that's great. Yeah, partner up with them. It's nice to have even just like a mental safety net, right? To help you get started and get out of that analysis paralysis thing. Because seriously, once you get that first one, you see that it's really not so scary, and it's really easy to get going and get the next one. That first one is just the hardest one. So getting over that hurdle is really challenging. From there, like I said, I kind of set myself up over the years financially, where I was able to, have the funds to purchase other properties, myself, through the savings, took out a 401k loan, HELOCs on other properties. And I did partner with one other person towards the end of last year on another property. And yeah, just kind of being open to opportunities. We had one property as well that we bought all cash, and then we refinanced or financed 6 months later, got all our money back, and roll that into the next one. So just being open to opportunities.
So for people who have 401ks, let's say they don't have the liquidity, but they have the 401k and they're interested in investing in a short-term rental, can you walk through like what the process is like doing that, and how easy it is, and how much time do they need to kind of be ready to be in a position to say, hey, I'm ready to make an offer?
Sure. Yeah. Super easy. Yeah, you got to talk with your specific 401k provider, but typically you're able to take out up to $50,000 for a general use loan for anything. And if you're still, if you're at your W-2, they'll just automatically deduct the payments from your paycheck. So it's very, very, very simple. And I mean, shoot, I think it was like a 2 to 3 day process of, getting the funds available. So it was, super seamless, super easy, quick. Highly recommend that if you have that ability. That's a good source of funds to use as a down payment. Like I said, HELOCs too. HELOCs are great. I know it's a little bit more challenging now with rates and everything. But if you have a HELOC or can get a HELOC, those are great avenues as well to be able to get a decent chunk of change to be able to use and fund a property.
No, that's pretty cool. And I want to stick with that 401k for a little bit because, everybody sit there and say 401k, you use it for retirement, I guess what is that decision maker to sit there and say, I'm going to pull some money out of my 401k versus keeping the money in there because obviously you're investing in stocks or mutual funds or whatever, and you're hopefully getting a return. Is there a way that people should look at that before they sit there and just say, hey, I'm going to pull some money out of this 401k and jump into this real estate game?
Man, you might need to pull me off my soapbox here, but gosh, let's just say I don't have a very high opinion of the common wisdom, let's put it that way, of financial management in terms of invest in, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, 401k, IRA, and that's the way to retire rich. If you look at statistics, there's only, I think it was like 22% of people that retire or that say they have enough money to actually retire. 22%. And that's not being rich. That's being able to live. And if you just think about it, IRAs and 401ks, frankly, are set up for you to be retiring poor. I mean, if you think about an IRA, especially a Roth where it's tax deferred, and the intent or the point of it is when I retire, I'm going to pay less tax. So I want to defer those taxes, right? Because my tax bracket's going to be lower. Well, how is your tax bracket lower? Typically, it's because you don't make money, right? So it's basically saying that I intend to retire poor, so I'm going to defer my taxes to when I am poor so I can pay less taxes. So that, in a nutshell, that's what I think of those things. Now, if you do nothing else, though, I will say this. If you do nothing else, if you're not ready to make the leap, if you are working a W-2 and you're going to be continuing to work a W-2, if you have the option for a 401k, and especially if it's a company match, then invest at least up to the company match because that is free money, right? So do that. And that's what I did. I invested up to the company match and that's it. Because that's just kind of a no-brainer there. But beyond that, focus your funds on other things, whether it's real estate or alternative investments that are going to actually generate cash flow, because that's the important thing is cash flow and building equity and building wealth. And a 401k or an IRA is not going to do that for you. So if you're thinking about pulling money out of a 401k or an IRA or something like that, I would first recommend doing a 401k loan like that because there's no tax penalty. But even beyond that, if you need the funds, if you need to pull out the money from either of those retirement funds and take that tax hit to invest into real estate, I would recommend doing it because you are going to find that you will make a lot more money over whatever those years are than you would if you just left that money in there. So I know that tax hit can sting, but I will tell you that and anybody who's ever done it will tell you it's 100% worth it to do that now.
You got me thinking, because I just walked away from my W-2 a year ago and I still have money in there that I haven't really touched, and I'm highly considering, reinvesting some of the money in funds and deploying it into real estate. It's funny because when I had the initial conversation with the representative from, I won't say the company, but they're like, yeah, you don't want to do that. It's you need a custodian and it's probably not a good idea. And it's kind of funny, depending on, I guess they're the sales rep on they want to retain their money. So it's kind of funny, but
well, that's the thing. I mean, if you look at the financial management industry, or they work for, number one, they work for commissions, right?
Yeah,
and they work for ultimately Wall Street, and Wall Street is there to make themselves richer, not you. So don't get me wrong, you can make money through stocks if you do it professionally, if you know what the heck you're doing. 99.9% of us don't, and it's like a casino. So, I mean, Wall Street is there to get themselves wealthy, not you. Financial managers, general wisdom, conventional wisdom like this of how to manage your money is not going to get you wealthy.
So you're going to help our listeners get wealthy because you have a lot of properties in the Smokies. You talked about underwriting conservatively. So walk us through that, because I think, you have one property, 10 people will underwrite the property, you'll get 10 different forecasts. So maybe you walk us through, what does underwriting conservatively mean? And then what sort of tools you use to make sure that you're doing it accurately?
Sure. As far as tools, I just use a simple Excel spreadsheet, and I think it was, an underwriting tool that I found from someone else. It's pretty basic, but it gives you all the information you need. So you can find that, most anywhere. And everybody's criteria is going to be different, right? I mean, some people are make a large income and they need tax benefits more than cash flow, right? So that's a whole different set of criteria that you're going to look for. For me, I was looking for cash flow. So my criteria has evolved a little bit, but in the beginning, I was looking basically for, 20% cash on cash return was what I wanted to underwrite to on a conservative basis. So I would take the revenue estimates from, and again, I got started this was toward the end of 2020, beginning of 2021. So I was using, I would use 2018, 2019 data. And right now I still use 2019 data basically for my underwriting, because anybody will tell you now, 2020, 2021, especially in 2022, those were awesome years, right? They were incredible, but I would not forecast, or I would not underwrite a property to those right now. Not to say you can't generate those revenues, but again, to be conservative, let's go pre-COVID, and kind of a more normalized atmosphere. So I use those revenue projections, and at the end of the day, I just get the price to where it needs to be to meet my cash on cash return criteria, and that's where my offer is going to be. And especially now, this is the best time to submit an offer, even if it's an insulting offer, right? Because you never know what's going to stick. Even when I bought my first cabin, and this was again in the middle of the crazy hot market, and it was actually just real funny. I had that first property just reappraised, and in the appraiser's notes, he even put that it was something like the value that this property was purchased at is not necessarily representative of the true value at that time. This property was purchased under list price, which never happened.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. And I was just, I refused to get into that bidding war. And so I kind of had to come up with a strategy of how to make it work for me in a crazy hot market. And I paid under list price on every single property. I've never paid list or above list.
Yeah. Oh man, I guess behind the scenes we're gonna have to get peek up under the covers there, because me and I, we want to pay on the list too, But one of the big things that you mentioned here, which is important for the listeners, is have some criteria when you're underwriting your deal, right? Have what you want to expect back on your cash on cash return and your cash flow, and stick to it, right? I think you mentioned, Cale, stick to your guns was the words that you mentioned, and that's so important, because it'll take it'll 100% make sure that you get a deal that makes sense versus getting a deal where you're going to sit there and lose your skirt on. Cale, listen, one of the things that we ask everyone here is, what does find your freedom mean to you?
Yeah. Right now, I think it means, and what it's provided is flexibility, time flexibility, especially. For example, I just about a month or so ago, I got back from a 3-week trip through Europe with just myself and my 3-year-old. That's the kind of trip I'd never be able to take working a W-2 job. I mean, I was relegated to vacations that were maximum pretty much 1 week, which half the time I was stressed out about getting back to work, so it's that type of thing, to be able to do that now. And in the mornings when I get back from the gym, it doesn't happen every day. Trust me, some days I feel I'm working more than I was before. But, some days when I get back from the gym, it's in the morning, I can spend time with, the little guy and maybe take him to the park or something like that. So yeah, it's having the flexibility now to decide where my time goes and where my efforts go. And, the financial aspect of it, yes, I'm financially free. I make, more from my real estate than my expenses. I'm still working through that though. I mean, it's, just to be, transparent, I come from a very, and I still have a scarcity mindset, and that's a real challenging hurdle to overcome. And that is one thing that drew me to real estate, was that everybody, whether they have it or not, they really promote an abundance mindset. And that's what the real estate investing community really, really focuses on. And so it helps to be around people that have that mindset to help change your mindset. So I'm still a work in progress on that, but, that's a very important thing as well.
So if listeners don't find you in the gym or with your son, or on vacation, where can they find you?
So yeah, you can find me on Facebook, just Cale Delaney. That's probably the best spot to reach out to me. I'm very actively involved in a lot of different real estate communities and forums. Instagram, just at Cale_Delaney. My presence on there is not the greatest right now. That is a goal for this year, to really build that up and ramp that up. So follow me now and we'll get that going for you. And then we are coming out with real short here. We're coming out with our own podcast. It's going to be called The Fit Investor. So yeah, we're going to talk about, kind of a holistic approach to financial, physical, and faithful fitness. So
awesome. Love it, love it, love it. Hey man, one of the things we like to do at the end of the show is we like to sit there and bust out some speakers. And we also like to sit there and bust out some air drums. So we do this boom. All right. How it's going to work is, I'm going to count to 3, 1, 2, 3. And in a uniform manner, all through us, going to say boom, it's loud. So with that being said, and listeners, just to let you know, I see, Mr. Omid, he's getting ready.
He's stretching, he's warming up.
But people can't.
I'm ready.
So with that being said, everybody's ready to do the boom?
Yes, sir.
All right, cool.
Do it.
All right, 1, 2, 3. Boom. Awesome. Check this out, man. You have to learn how to be an action taker. Sometimes you just got to pack the family up in the car and go out to the market and say, we're not coming back until we get a property under contract. And that's what you got to do. Okay. But listen, this episode was super fantastic and packed with so much information that can help you in your journey. So make sure that you listen. And when you listen, ensure that you leave a 5-star review, because that's how we get more and more and more episodes to you. Now, we all know that we have to make sure that we leave you with something so you can find your freedom. So we put together something called a Freedom Kit. It's easily downloadable. All you have to do is go to findyourfreedom, REI.com/freedom kit. Once again, findyourfreedom, REI.com/freedom kit. Now, we need you to share this episode. We need you to share this with the masses, with your brother, your sister, your aunt, your uncle, your niece, your nephew. Hey, take the link and email it to every single soul that is in your inbox there. And take it to work, share it with all the people you like and the people that you don't. Until the next episode, we talk to you soon.
Peace.
Thanks for listening to Find Your Freedom. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. While you're at it, please help us spread the word by leaving a rating and review and sharing the podcast with friends, family, and colleagues. Until next time, get out there and find your freedom.